All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. It's about 5 minutes after the hour. I'd like to thank all of you for coming out tonight. I want you to know that we're actually really excited to be coming to the close of our first year. I remember last year at around this time we had our last community update meeting before we had our walk-through registration and we started school the next school year. So tonight there's a couple of purposes, and one of the big purposes to kind of give you a state of the school address. And during this meeting we actually hope to share with you a couple of things. First of all, we hope to share some of our successes. We want to inform you about what we're doing here at school as we move forward in relation to what you were told over the last couple of years as we designed the high school. And we also want to share with you some of the areas that we have been reflecting on all year, and some of the areas that we believe we have some marked improvement to make. And so we want you to know that we hear our community, we hear the suggestions and the feedback, and we want to make sure that you understand that we are making some improvements, and we want to talk about what those improvements are. As with all educational organizations, we are a learning organization. And as we grow and continue to implement instructional practices at our school, it's our hope that we can keep that open dialogue with you as parents and community members so that we can continue to listen to and address concerns as they come up. And also to clarify some of the information that might be out there that maybe hasn't necessarily come directly from the school, and some misconceptions that might be held by our whole community. And part of this cycle that we have is a part of the cycle of continued improvement. And part of that is what we've been doing this whole first year. We planned before we started. We did a lot of stuff this year. We're doing a lot of checking of whether it works, and we're in the acting to improve the performance over the year, and then it goes through the cycle again, and we'll continue to do that. I find that as a professional educator for 15 years, that a lot of educational organizations stagnate and they find something that they think works really well for them, and they don't listen to input from the community, they don't have meetings like this, they don't listen to input, and they don't really change. And we want you to know that we are the school that stands for change, and we want to make sure that you understand that we're open to change, and we want your feedback about that. And we also want to give you some of the information about how you can help us as we move forward. Before I get started, I want to draw your attention to the staff that we hired in our inaugural year. And I want all the teachers and administrators, if you could stand up very quickly so that you can see how many of our teachers are here tonight. Thank you. These teachers are here tonight, are hardworking staff members, faculty members, administration, district administration, and board members who have dedicated themselves to make sure that our students here in Mountain House have an ideal educational situation. And the fact that we have so many teachers here tonight willing to come and listen to your feedback is very important to me. They felt it very important to be here, to hear you, and not to just hide behind the door, hide behind the principal, and hope that I answer all of the questions right. They want to be here to listen to you, and we want you to know that we are willing to listen and change. I also want to draw attention to the fact that we do have some board members here tonight. We have President Matthew Balzerini in the back there, and board members Pombo and Colin Clements over there in the back. So I thank them for coming. We also have Dr. Nicholas, who is our superintendent, and Dr. Krishwinder Gill, who is here also as our assistant superintendent from the school district. And they're here because they hear the concerns of the community as well, and they want to be a part of the solution. So we're really excited that all these people are here tonight. And they're here again because they're here to support your students. They're here to support the community. And we're excited about what we're doing here at Mountain House. We're excited about the opportunity to change. So I just want to go over the structure of the meeting. I want you to know that I'm not going to go on for about more than 25 minutes, so that there is plenty of time at the end of the meeting for questions and answers. You'll notice around the room on the backs of chairs, there's an opportunity to electronically submit questions, either by going to that link that's on that paper, you can scan the QR code, Our Vice Principal, Kevin Seamus, and Counselor Karen Friesen are over there monitoring those questions, and they're going to be kind of seeing if there's any commonalities among them, and they'll bring those up, and we'll address those questions first. And then there will be some time at the end of the meeting for you to ask a question at the end. So if you have questions, there's some green 3x5 cards at the back with some pens. And if you want to write a question down and don't want to get up at the end, you can go ahead and give it to Mr. Seamus or Mrs. Friesen, and they'll incorporate that into the feedback that's coming in. And those pieces of feedback are also important for us to have. I know some people don't feel comfortable putting it into a form, but having it in a written form helps us to be able to keep that information and review it after this meeting. So if you would, we would appreciate you putting that into the form, even if you're going to get up and come to speak. So we're going to talk about some successes, then we're going to talk about areas of improvement, and then we'll get to your questions. So again, thank you so much for coming and sharing tonight. We really are excited to talk about what we're going to talk about tonight. Our hope is that you'll learn a little bit about what we've done this year, what we've learned about what's going on, about the learning environment that's been designed and is continually changing. And we want to share some of successes with you and those improvements that we have. So the first thing I want to get into is some of the successes that we've had this year. Brand new high school, 52 acres, 489 students right now. And we're proud about the learning environment that's been designed. And the first thing I want to go over is there was a number shared in an article that I know drew a lot of attention. And that was a number of students who needed remediation in summer school. So I wanted to go over some specifics because the one number that was reported out doesn't tell the whole story of Mountain House High School and the successes and areas of improvement that we have. So I'm going to quickly go over that number. First of all, this is a chart of the 169 students at Mountain House High School. Now that we've updated a lot of those incomplete grades that were originally reported at the last board meeting, there are now 169 students at Mountain House High School who have need of summer school for remediation purposes, either for college eligibility or high school graduation. So these are and/or folks, 169 of them. So the other thing that we need to remember is that this number, 169 students, includes 135 students who have incomplete grades, where students have the opportunity to complete their work, and as soon as they do, those grades turn into a C or above. Also noteworthy in this is the fact that we only have freshmen and sophomores. If we had freshmen through seniors, typically freshmen have a tough time transitioning, and the number of D's and F's in a freshman class are much higher than those of any of the other classes. And so because we only have freshmen and sophomores and 489 students, that 169 number looks abnormally high compared to other districts. And so most other districts will have a number in the 20s, 21, 22% who need remediation from summer school. We're at 34.6%, and having freshmen and sophomores could be one of the reasons why that number seems a bit abnormally high. The other thing that's noteworthy about this 169 students is that 48 of the 169 students have to attend summer school because they came to us as sophomores, having failed or got a D in one or more classes their freshman year outside of our district. So that's 16.5% of that 34% is actually due to students who were already behind when they came in. So these students also have the opportunity to avoid attending summer school for the first semester grades if they complete the work and they have an I in the grade. So the last thing I wanted to point out about that summer school number, and hopefully you'll understand the summer school number more. Again, I think that number has been used to prove some points that we just want to make sure everybody has all of the information, is that only 28 of the 135 students with incomplete grades, so I took all of the 169 students, and how many of the 169 had an I? Only 28 of the 135 who have to take summer school because it's due to math only. So that means out of the 135 kids with I's, they also have another class that they have a D or an F in. So it's not all because of the math program or any one other program at the school. Only 28 of the students solely have to go because of only math. So there's another set of numbers that I'd like to report to you, and this is really great positive news that I hope you will share as you leave on social media and to your friends. And this is what we call a grade distribution report, and I put up here that we have, so this bears a little explaining. Each of our 489 students take either 6 or 7 periods a day, which means at the end of the semester, each student received either 6 or 7 grades. So if you multiply that by the number of students that we have, we awarded first semester 3,116 grades to 489 students. Hopefully you're with me, right? So what we did is we calculated how many of those 3,116 grades that we gave were A's, B's, C's, D's, F's, and I's. And you'll notice that large blue portion, 44.3% of the grades that we gave first semester were A's. 25.7% of the grades that we gave were B's. 17.1% of the grades that we gave were C's. So what this tells you is that 87.1% of our percent of our grades that we gave to students were grades that were eligible for college graduation right off the bat. 87.1% of our students. That's huge. That's a great success. That it is. It really is a great success. We're really happy and proud that we're skewing. Normally you see a typical bell curve, right? A few A's, lots of B's, more C's, a few D's, very few F's. We broke that bell curve. We made sure that our students are mastering the standards through our mastery-based grading policies and making sure that students are getting what they need. So what we're basically saying is only 8.4% were D's and F's, and 4.5% of our students received I's, which are changeable as soon as they complete the curriculum for the first semester curriculum. So hopefully that tells a little clearer picture of the successes and failures of our school. The fact that only 14% of our kids are below a C. Grades that were received were below a C. We went a little further. We have transcript information from all of our students, from all of our students who are currently sophomores. So this is the class of 2017. So out of our class of 2017, we were able to take a look at the grades that they received as freshmen and compare that cohort to this year's sophomores, who are the same kids. So this is apples to apples. So you notice on the left-hand side is the grade distribution, the same kind of grade distribution that I did in the previous one. How many A's, B's, C's, D's, F's. You'll notice that up here you have, as freshmen, these are the percentages. And as sophomores, the same class, these are the percentages. So to me, what this is saying is that during our first year in existence, this class, this cohort, achieved at slightly better levels than they did the previous year in a new school, in a new environment, with a new learning style. And as we continue to reflect and improve our instructional practices, we expect these numbers are going to improve. And we're going to talk about how we're going to help them to improve. We want them to look a lot better than that. We don't want them to just look the same as they did before. But you'll notice that we're having a very similar amount of success, if not a little bit better, than the system in which students came from. So I want to go through a few more successes, and then we'll get to the areas where you want to know, okay, what are you going to do next, Mr. Fobert? Enough with the successes. So we're just going to go quickly through these ones. So the first thing is WASP candidacy. The Western Association of Schools and Colleges is an accreditation agency that all schools in the nation have to pass accreditation. And most brand new schools do not become accredited until well into their second year. That wasn't good enough for us. We knew we would have seniors next year. We were granted an early visit in October, and we were granted candidacy status for WASP Accreditation, which allowed us then to go ahead and start submitting all of the courses that your students are taking. If you remember in our catalog, all of the courses said pending UC A to G approval, which is necessary for a student graduating high school to be able to take those classes to be accepted to the UC system. Because we gained that early candidacy accreditation, we now, as of today, have 40 classes approved since January in our system, ready to go. Your students will receive credit in courses that are accredited for UC and, frankly, for other private schools and out-of-state schools. So that is a huge accomplishment, and it's thanks to our teachers who are working so hard to write units, develop curriculum, submit them to the University of California, who has verified that the courses of study we're teaching at Mountain House High School are valid and ready to go for college preparation. A couple of other things really quickly. Our Project Lead the Way program. Many of your students may be involved in either biomedical science or engineering, and those are preparing students to be successful in future college education and career pursuits in those fields. We have a computer science program teaching students how to code and program, and next year we'll be adopting the Project Lead the Way curriculum just as we did with the other areas. We hosted our first, our culinary arts program, moved into their new cooking lab in January. That was awesome. So students who have an interest in the culinary arts are being inspired in that area. And we've held our first AP class. The very first year we opened, most schools don't do that. They say, well, let's wait for the next year. And our students will be taking that test in a couple of weeks here on our campus due to our candidacy accreditation and to the fact that we're UC A to G eligible. The last thing I want to bring to your attention is the elective programs and extracurricular programs that we have here at Mountain House High School. We talked a lot over the last 2 years about, is there going to be sports? Is there going to be clubs? You notice up on this list, I won't read through them all, but we have successful athletic programs. We just found out today that our freshman and JV boys track kids, first in the league. First in the league in our first year. You can imagine that the other schools in our league are with their tails between their legs right now to see the brand new Mountain House High School achieving at such high levels in our own league. We have tons of clubs and organizations. We have a leadership group. They do homecoming dances. We had our challenge day, and some of your kids were involved with that, which addresses bullying and school culture. And we have lots of competitive teams and clubs. Our HOSA advisor is here tonight. She took her students to the state leadership conference and to the local leadership conference, whatever that's called. And they competed and they achieved at pretty high levels, and we're looking forward to moving on to national recognition next year. Awesome clubs and organizations, DECA, Science Olympiad. Mock trial started this year, and we'll get it going even more next year. So we've got a lot to celebrate there. So we have a lot to be proud of in our first year of operation. We have lots of dedicated class teachers, classified staff, administration, and we understand also that no organization is perfect. And really, I want to level with you. I say this all the time. I live here. I look at you and I know almost every one of you. I see you on the soccer field. I see you on the basketball court. I have 7 children of my own. It's likely that one of our children is in a class together. And the other thing I want to remind you is, I will have a freshman here next year, and for the next 18 years, I will have a student at Mountain House High School. We did the math recently. And I want to assure you that I'm not just willing to put my children in this school. I'm excited about the learning environment that's going on here, and I'm excited mostly because this group of teachers is unlike any other group of teachers I know. A lot of teachers stagnate when they get into a groove. These teachers are not that way. They're reflective. They want to change. I told them this is the most ambiguous kind of school environment you can be in because we're going to keep moving and changing. So So as a learning institution, our administration, teachers, and classified staff want you to know that we're going to be listening to you. So here's a couple of the things that we feel on our own, that from the perceptions that we receive from students, parents, and community, and from our own observations, what we feel we need to do a better job with. And the very first thing that we feel like we need to do a better job with is the implementation of the blended learning methodology in the classroom, and how to help students operate in this new educational environment. So I think the first thing is that students need to be explicitly taught how to access the information that's given to them in an electronic format. For one example, we assumed that students knew how to access information through instructional video. We just assumed that, you know, kids know how to use YouTube, right? Yeah, well, when we tell the kids to watch YouTube video or watch when they're watching TV, what are your kids doing when they're watching TV? Right? How many of them have their cell phone in their hand or their Chromebook in their lap or something else going on? They're not really paying attention 100% to that. So we assumed they knew how to access information in an instructional format, in video format. And we were wrong. Many of them do not know how to access that information. We also assumed that they knew how to take notes while watching that video as well. Same thing, right? We assumed wrong. There are definitely valid reasons for us to use these kinds of instructional technologies, but if we are not responsible for teaching the format in which to do that, we're remiss in our opportunity to teach. So that's the first thing that we saw that was wrong and that we need to change. I'll address later what we're going to do. So remember, I'm going to share with you what we see, and I'll share with you what we're going to do. The second thing that we really realized is we realized that we need to ensure that students are actively engaged in the learning process on a daily basis. The purpose of the blended learning environment is to infuse technology in the classroom in order that engagement can be increased in the classroom. So active learning strategies in the classroom should be the standard every day. There should be some sort of active learning task to do each day. That may look different each day. It may mean a discussion. It may mean, you know, students working together. It may be an independent activity. So there's all kinds of things that can be done, but it's got to be active learning. They need to be collaborating, discussing, questioning, listening to their teacher sometimes. So those are some problems that we've seen, is that we have not necessarily provided those active engagement opportunities on a regular basis. The third thing, sorry, there's a picture of kids actively engaging in class. It happens on a regular basis, but not regular enough. The other thing that we really need to follow and to implement is a minimum pace. Some sort of pacing guides for students, because again, we assume kids, here's the content, go, do it. And we'll just, help those people along that, are kind of slacking off and things like that. Well, without a minimum pace, many of our students aren't ready to take on that responsibility. Some are, and as you see by the grades, a lot of them are. They're ready to go. But we need to target at least the minimum pace to have students be moving at one particular pace. And you know what? The great thing about blended learning is if we're at a minimum pace, we at least have these kids moving along. Kids are welcome to go 3-4 lessons, a unit ahead if they want. And when there's an active engagement strategy being learned in class, at least the kids way up here will be able to perform the active engagement in class. But if we don't have a minimum pace and we're designing an active engagement learning opportunity over here, these kids are going to be lost. So having a minimum pace and making sure that minimum pace is kept, and that when kids fall off of that minimum pace, there's an intervention for the student immediately, and that the parents are communicated with immediately on a regular basis. And what we're finding a lot of in our courses is that it's not that these kids don't understand the content, it's that they simply aren't motivated to move forward. And why be motivated to move forward when there's not a severe consequence for not moving forward. And I think that that's what summer school is being looked at right now as a consequence, but we need to make sure that there is some sort of minimum pace. The next thing that we see an area for improvement, and we're already making changes in, is classroom management is much different in a technology-driven environment. When every kid has a Chromebook in front of their face, and cell phones are sometimes used in class for instructional purposes, many kids will take advantage of that, and they'll text their friend, and they'll open an extra tab behind that tab so that they can switch back and forth while the teacher comes to take a look. And they're chatting with their friend, or they're shopping for shoes, and we've seen it all, right? They're watching a Netflix movie in the background. They're listening to music while they're watching instructional video. So technology, first of all, the number one way to ensure effective classroom management is to provide engaging learning activities for students to engage in class. And number two, we need to provide students with clear understanding of expectations for student behavior in relation to technology. And we need to review those expectations regularly, provide consistent enforcement when they're not followed, including immediate parent contact. Because you want to know, if it were my kid, I'll tell you right now, if my kid is sitting in a class watching a Netflix video while they're doing math, I better get a call, because that's the end of that. And I know a lot of you is going to do the same thing. You just let me know, and I will ensure that doesn't happen again. So, for example, cell phone usage in class needs to be addressed. We need to talk about website blocking, more website blocking on our campus. We've probably have already heard, and it's been out on Twitter already, that we shut down Google Hangouts. How dare we do that? So yeah, we're doing stuff like that because we believe that it provides a better managed classroom in the technology environment. The other thing that we need to ensure is that from bell to bell, beginning of class to end of class, that students are focused only on academic tasks. There's there's 5 minutes left in class, kids, go ahead and do whatever you want. Bell to bell. We need to have academic work going on. We don't care that during their break and during their lunch, they're chatting with their friends, whatever. But what we do care about is what are they doing in class. And our teachers are using some tools right now. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So the last thing I want to address that we've seen, that we've heard and seen and are working to address is we really need checks and balances in our mastery-based learning environment. So let me tell you what that means. Mastery-based learning allows teachers to help students who take a little bit longer to understand certain concepts, and we want to give kids that extra chance. We don't want to just leave them behind and say, well, too bad, we're moving on. However, kids have been able to game the system this year. They take the quiz over and over and over and over and over until they pass the test. My daughter's in 8th grade. She's taking math. The 8th grade is piloting a math thing just like the high school is doing. And she was doing that one day, taking it over and over. And I said, no, you can't do that. So what we need to do is we need to take a look back at our redo and retake policy. It needs to be addressed so that they see the value of practice before they try demonstrating mastery the first time. Because a lot of the kids are going, I don't have to do the homework, so I'm just going to try the quiz over and over. And then when they get to the test, they go, I don't get it. I did all the work, but I don't get it. And they really didn't do all the work. They just tried the quiz over and over. And then they finally pass the quiz and they get to the test and they can't pass it because they've never practiced and they never mastered the content in the first place. So students need to be expected to first complete appropriate practice and note-taking before they attempt. And then when they take the test or quiz and they're not successful on it, it can't just be an automatic, I'm going to go take that again. There needs to be reflection. There needs to be a purposeful revisiting and required reflection on their mistakes and do some sort of directed error analysis, right? I'm going to take these questions. I got number 5, 6, and 7 wrong. I'm going to look at 5, 6, and 7 and analyze it. If I need help, I'm going to go to my teacher and analyze it. I'm going to explain what it was I did wrong. And once I show my teacher I understand what I did wrong, now I can go back and reattend, because I've gained some sort of real understanding of what I missed. Then they can retake. I don't think we should throw that away. I think we should retool it so that it's valuable learning. We all want our kids to make mistakes. That's where they learn the most. But we need to direct it as teachers and as educators. Students should no longer be allowed to game the system, but they should be supported with targeted intervention when they're unsuccessful. So, recap of what I think the major, I'm not going to get to every last thing, little thing that we feel like we've done, or we can get into little piddly things, but these are the major ideas that have to do with curriculum, that have to do with instruction, that have to do with the most frustrating things you as parents and as students feel on a daily basis. Explicit instruction is needed to be successful. Active engagement in classrooms is a must. There needs to be a minimum pace set for students. There needs to be some sort of idea about what management looks like in a classroom, in the new technology classroom. And there needs to be checks and balances and focus on practice and reflection before people redo and retake. So those are the huge issues that we feel like we've got through the perceptions of community members, through social media, through feedback that we've heard in counseling meetings and administrative meetings and all that. So, you want to know what we're doing now, right? So I'm going to break that down into 2 areas. I'm going to tell you, we have how many weeks left in school? 5 weeks? 6 weeks? You can keep them longer. We can keep them longer. We've got some. So, we've got a few weeks left. There are some things that we're doing now that we've already talked about as a staff because we feel like that something needs to be done. So, the first thing that we're working on is active engagement of students. So, we need to make sure that teachers design regular and consistent engaging activities around the content that's being taught in the class. Class discussions, Socratic seminars, project-based learning, opportunities to model concepts and show mastery of learning within the class in an actively engaged kind of way. Again, that doesn't always mean I'm up out of my seat actively doing something with my body, but it's an active mental engagement sometimes. Sometimes it is I'm up out of my seat and I'm engaging with other students and with the teacher, and sometimes it's direct instruction straight from the teacher. It's a wonderful thing about blended learning. We need to do more of that. The second thing, intervention. An intervention cannot be just go back and watch the video. It can't be that. Now, we have to make sure that we understand that we're talking about when the student hasn't watched the video in the first place, the direction probably will be to go back and watch the video in the first place. Okay? Small group instruction needs to happen in classroom for groups of students who may be at the same area in their learning. And then we need to communicate with students and parents about specific tasks that need to be completed to make progress. We need to strengthen our mastery-based learning program. For example, like I was talking about, revamping the redo and retake policy to require practice before demonstrating mastery, reflection and error analysis before additional attempts to master content. And then again, communication to parents when it's not working. We need to teach explicit skills. Again, this goes back to that we never taught kids how to watch instructional videos. So guess what? We developed several lists how to watch instructional videos. Step 1, turn your phone off. Step 2, turn off all the other tabs on your computer. This seems elementary, right? But the kids need to be told this. Step 3, no listening to music, right? You cannot listen to music with instructional video going on. They will not get what they need to. The other thing we need to do is we need to teach them how to take notes while they're watching that instructional video. What this looks like in the school environment is, we have a teacher who emailed me today, I think Ms. Qtop, right? Who said, hey, I took those lists, Mr. Fobert, that you sent us about how to watch instructional video, how to take notes, and then what do I do next? and I created a lesson for students, and I'm going to go over it, because they need it now. Especially if we're thinking about all the students who have to go to summer school are going to need those skills in summer school, so why not teach them now? So those are some of the things and then communicate with parents. I'm going to send home those lists to you. What should it look like when my kid comes home and they're watching a YouTube video of their math teacher teaching some concept? Because it shouldn't look like my kid sitting there like this. You know, it should look like my kid sitting with a notepad and taking notes and actively watching what's going on. The other thing that kids don't understand is when they watch a YouTube video, they push play and let it go to the end. There's a pause button. There's a rewind button. There are ways for you to see it again. There are ways for you to review it after you've taken notes. Maybe after you've taken notes you think you understand, go back and watch it again. Watch your notes as you go through. Let's see if I understood what I thought I understood. So the last thing that we're doing right now, and this is something I'm sure you've heard from some of your students, is that we're cracking down. Cell phones are gone during class time. Unless the teacher has said, take it out so you can use the calculator that you've downloaded. Or you need to take a picture of your notes and send it to me. Unless that happens, they're away. And if they're not, they get taken away. And then parents are going to be communicated with. We're blocking some of the chatting websites. They're no longer on Google Chat. They've found every other chat website. We can't block them all. But what we can do is create an expectation. And when they're caught doing something they're expected not to do, there's a consequence. So there's all kinds of things like that. And then, again, communication with parents. So those are some things we're doing right now. You should ask your kids, talk to them. Teachers, this is not new to them. We've been talking about this for what, 3 or 4 weeks now, at least, if not more. We've been talking all year about what are we doing to make sure that this works better. So the other things I wanted to share with you, and then I will be quiet so that we can field some of these questions that are coming in over here, and then some of your questions from the audience, is what we're doing in our next school year to continuously improve. And so the first thing I want to show you is some of you have already seen this already. It may have been explained to you already. You came to a counseling presentation and you saw it, but I want you to know that because of our concerns about our ability to intervene with students on a regular basis, we have completely revamped our bell schedule for next year. This year we have a 6-period day with an option to take a 0 period if you want to get up at 6:30 in the morning and be here by 7, which the majority of our students will not do, and if they do, they don't like it. So we incorporated 7 periods within the school day. We've incorporated a flex period, which means kids only have to take 6 periods. So they could be here for 6 periods, and somewhere in their day, they could have a period off to do homework, to peer tutor, to work on something that they're interested in, to volunteer with the counseling department, to volunteer with administration, to volunteer in teachers' classrooms, all kinds of different things. The other thing that's put into this day, as you'll notice right here in the middle, this is not flex period, this is called success. What success is if a student has any D's or F's, we reevaluate every 5 weeks. And after the 5th week of school is the first time we'll evaluate and we'll say, does anybody have D's or F's? If they do, during this time of the day, we're going to assign them to a success period. Say they're behind in math. You're going to go to your math class. You're going to get targeted intervention. Students who don't have success have the opportunity to become peer tutors. We're going to train them to do that, so they're extra bodies in the classroom. Sometimes kids learn it better from kids. If you don't have D's or F's and you don't want to be a peer tutor, you get an hour lunch. It's a bit of a carrot, honestly. For the students who merely are just not doing the work because they don't want to, you're going to not do the work because you don't want to, then you're going to end up in success period, and your friends could be outside for an hour-long lunch. So the other thing that this allows us to do is it gives opportunities for advanced students to take additional electives. So those kids who are taking, AP English and AP History, who in the traditional schedule wouldn't have time to take band, or choir, or drama, or something that they really enjoy doing, that 7th period can be used to take an elective. Or we have a partnership with Delta College. We're making it stronger as we go, and they have the opportunity to go over there and take classes. There may be opportunities for them to do that as well. So that's one thing we're doing. Integrated intervention during the day. Now, the other thing that we have the opportunity to do during the 7-period school day is each of our departments collaborate for almost an hour every single school day. This year they only have 1 hour. They have an opportunity to get together every day and talk about instruction, what's going right, what's going wrong, and how do we change it on a faster basis than we were able to do this year. The second thing that we can do, remember I said after the first 5 weeks of school, we evaluate how many kids have D's and F's, that's the first progress report. Well, what do we do in the first 5 weeks? We orient students. They go, I don't care if you've been here last year, you're gonna go into a classroom, we're gonna review how to watch instructional video, how to take notes, how do I send an email? Most of these students, by the way, have never had an email address before. Some of them, they open their emails and they have 1,000 emails. And you're like, have you checked your email this year? I have an email? They don't even know. So, how to use email, how to appropriately use your Google Documents, and how to use a Google Calendar. How many of you at work use an electronic calendar? Plenty of you. They're going to need to learn that to help organize themselves. How to use our learning management system. There's all kinds of things during those first 5 weeks of school that we can orient students on a yearly basis. Kind of re-up every year. Remember, these are the things that you need to know. The third thing that we're doing is, we have this year, but it's going to be more targeted this year, academic study skills classes. This is a targeted study skill instruction with regular one-on-one academic tracking and counseling paired with specific goal setting. What that means is students in this class will sit down every other week, one-on-one with a teacher, to create a plan and goals that get emailed to each of their teachers and to their parent and to themselves that they follow for the next 2 weeks. So we have a number of kids who have already decided, I'm going to take that class next year. I think I need it. We also have the opportunity, we've kept the enrollment in these classes low at first, so that students who have multiple problems in their schedule and need more intervention, if they have a flex period, guess what we're going to do with their flex period? Academic study skills. Or if they have an elective and they're not being successful in their other classes, we'd much rather you be successful in curricular classes than extracurricular classes. So we're going to make sure that they get targeted intervention, not just through the half-hour a day of success, but one-on-one tracking and tutoring, consistent communication between teacher and parents, and it's open to any student if they want to, and it's open to students when we help them enter into the class. I guess that's a nice way to say it. The other thing that we're doing next year is we recognize that some of our students are coming into us with math that are a little, what's the word? They're not as ready for the Math 1 concepts. And so what we've talked about is we're designing a Math 1A, 1B curriculum. And it's a more thorough look at our Math 1 concepts. What it basically means is, our kids who are coming in from our 8th grade into 9th grade who maybe have D's or F's in math from 8th grade, or sometimes even C's, and they don't feel real solid on those basic skills. So we're taking that Math 1 curriculum. We're taking the first semester of their freshman year to go over basic skills. And then we start Math 1 curriculum during the second semester, and then Math 1 for their whole sophomore year. So they get a semester of basic skills and 3 semesters to cover 2 semesters of work. There are a number of students that I think will really benefit from having a slower pace, getting some of those basic skills before they have to really tackle the difficult concepts. And I'll tell you right now, this Common Core integrated math, it's no longer, here's the worksheet, answer the questions. Students are being asked to model their understanding of these concepts. What that means is lots of word problems, lots of how does this work in the real world, and giving them basic skills first is going to help them. How do I factor? How do I make sure that I know how to work with fractions and things like that. So it also, if they start in their freshman year with Math 1A, 1B, by the time they're a senior, they will still have completed the UC requirement to enter college. So they take all 4 years of math still, they are still college eligible, it's no different than any other student. The other thing we're doing that I know you've heard about is summer school this summer. And summer school is for students, those students that you saw, the 169 students who were concerned about. Some of them came to us not ready. And what we're doing this summer is teachers are going to be available 4 hours a day, 4 days a week for 6 weeks. We're going to communicate with parents. Much of the curriculum is already available online, so some of the kids, for example, the math classes are just going to continue. If they have 1 unit to complete in math, then they complete the 1 unit and they're done with summer school. This is a summer school environment where kids can come and do as much work as possible. We're going to create a minimum pace, right, for the kids who need to complete. We're going to keep on that minimum pace, and the teacher's responsibility this summer is to provide intervention for students who need it when they don't understand, because they are there 4 hours a day. And if you want your kid there 4 hours a day, send them down. And so we're going to provide that for students, and they can complete and finish those requirements that they need before the end of the summer. Constant communication with parents and assistance from teachers on difficult content. And the last thing that we're going to continue doing and do a better job of is we're going to continue our communication and feedback. We have a newsletter that's in the form of a blog. There's a link to it on our homepage. If you don't already subscribe to it, it's easy. You click on the newsletter, and then there's a little thing in the corner. You put your email address and click submit. And every time a new post goes on that newsletter, you get it in the email. We don't spam it any other way. It's only when the newsletter is updated, you get an email on it. We did a parent university night this year. We had about 60 people show up. We're going to continue doing that next year, where you can come into class and teachers are going to model for you how they're teaching in their classes. You'll learn firsthand. We'll have a couple of periods during the night, the bell will ring, and you go to your next class and you learn a little bit more about our learning environment and what students are doing. As always, we have our website. Teachers have websites, social media, blogs, phone calls. The other thing I want to push that's not up here is if you do not have a Canvas Parent Observer account, that means the learning management system where all your kids' work and homework is posted, you can have an account that observes your kid and all the work they have or have not done. And you can check up on them. You can even subscribe to email updates every time something new is posted or homework is turned in or grades are updated. If you don't have that, you need to go do that. It's on our homepage. If you click Parents and Students and scroll down, there's even an instructional video to teach you how to sign up for a Parent Observer account. It's simple. The video is short. Please go do that if you have not. And there's a Canvas app you can get on your phone so that you can see what your kid is doing right from your phone. So if you don't have it already, download it on your smartphone. It's Canvas by Instructure. And then continually to have opportunities for parents to participate. We have school site council, we have PTSA, we have our athletic boosters and our band boosters, and we encourage parents to get involved with that. We're going to continue to kind of push parents to get involved. I think there's a misnomer that your kids come to high school and you think they might need a little less structure and a little less contact. More. Teenagers need more from you as a parent. It doesn't mean that you just get to go, okay, good luck. You need more. You need to be seeing them more. You need to ask them more questions. They're not going to want it, but you need to do it. If you're not, they're going to get behind. They're going to get, themselves in a place where, they're irresponsible, and now what? Now I've got to go to summer school. Again, our commitment is to communicate to you before it gets to that point, but you as parents really do need to take an active role in your students' education. I know you want to trust them, and they want you to trust them, but just because you've got a parent observer account doesn't mean you don't trust your child. It means you have an active interest in them. You love them, you want them to succeed. That's what you do as a parent. So, I'm done talking. bring this back to you. We're in a continuous cycle of improvement. I hope that you've seen, I really, really do hope that you see. Again, I'm a community member here. You know, my kids and your kids are friends. I'm not going anywhere. The school isn't going anywhere. This instructional environment is something that is innovative. It's going to continue to grow. We need your feedback. We appreciate your feedback. We want to make sure that you understand that the door is open. When you have a concern from an individual teacher about the school, our doors are open. Call. Ask what you can do. Tell us what you believe we can do. We need to have it be an open dialogue. And I want you to have all the information you need instead of just maybe one number that you saw, and then we make up information about what happens after that. We are being successful, and we are not perfect. We've made mistakes this year. I promise you we have. And I promise you that there will be times where we'll make mistakes again. But ultimately, what we've done at this school is we have created an innovative learning environment where your students will be successful, that they will make it to graduation, and they will become eligible for college and careers once they're done. I promise you that. So I appreciate you listening to all that I had to say. And I know there's a stack of questions that Mr. Seamus is going to bring over me. He and Mrs. Friedman have been hard at work, kind of distilling out of your questions. If you want to continue submitting, I'll keep looking at that. And there will be some time. I'll put a microphone up here, and you can get in line once that's down here. But I'm hoping that a lot of those questions, because I was looking at some of them earlier, and I thought, oh, that one's going to be addressed during the presentation, and that one will be addressed, and that one will be addressed. But if you want some more clarification before we start